Well, hello everybody. Hello, my name is Arturo Regalado. Thank you very much for having me today to give this talk, to give this presentation. Carlos, thank you very much for inviting me to present before and in front of your group. Sorry guys that I am really not able to be there today. I have some teaching obligations and other seminars that don't allow me to be at today's session. But nevertheless, even if it's delivered through this YouTube video and through this online delivery. I hope you will still enjoy it. You will find it useful, and it will be a very good use and to showcase some of the power of programming tools and data visualization. And I am sure you will like it. Okay, so well, let's begin. And today's talk is called "Automate the Boring and Focus on the Exciting." Use Python and reclaim your time. And this is a very, very important or a very important and interesting point I want to give to you. You know, you can automate the boring stuff by using Python and also focus on the exciting things about data visualization and especially and in this case data analysis to be true, right? Because sometimes while programming can be sometimes cool for us, you know, if you are into programming the languages, making these tools, it can be really good. You can feel right about it. But sometimes some of this programming by itself is not something that adds too much value to the things you do. And there are more exciting stuff like asking questions, like using your visualizations to answer those questions and for decision making. So really automating the boring and focusing on the exciting by using this Python and these programming languages is very, very useful in everyday life, in your classes, and also obviously in the professional life, whether it's academia, the industry, or any other sector. So without further ado, let's begin. And first of all, let's speak about what I think are some of the core abilities for data visualization and programming. And the first one is, of course, to enjoy learning new things. Every time, if you feel like you're doing these programming languages, maybe if it's your first time approaching, I don't know, Python, R, some of these languages, it's actually as if you were studying a new language. You begin learning new things. It's difficult at the beginning, but then you begin getting a hang of it. And through this process, you also learn many different skills and sets. But to do this, you need to be curious. You need to be asking questions. You need to be looking at ways of how you can improve. But also, and I think this is the most important, you need very high tolerance to failure. And it's essential with programming. We've all faced that part when you're writing your code, everything seems that it's going very fine. You put a wrong colon, a wrong comma, a wrong number, and it's sometimes just very, very small in a 300 line code to say so, and you have an error. And every time you're debugging, you're trying to do that, you have failures. And to be true, programming is failing a lot of the time. So you need very high tolerance to failure, but then very good things come around. And especially for data visualization, I think it's about being passionate about getting your analysis across the table and using the correct tools, not for the sake of using the tools, but actually to get this visualization to be useful for something, maybe decision making, maybe to express your point. And the thing is getting your analysis or whatever you're trying to say with this visualization to get it across the table. I think that's what you need to have for data visualization. Everybody can program. As you can see, this is more of abstract abilities, right? Because teaching how to program, everybody can do it. It's just about having this right mindset about data visualization and programming. And what are non-essential abilities actually? You don't need to be an expert programmer. I know I am not an expert programmer, but I harness the power of these tools to be useful for my needs. I feed the programming languages to adjust to what I need. And that's a tip that I give to you. Don't think that it's Python will make the job for you. No, it will help you in making the job, right? But it's not about becoming an expert programmer. It's about just finding what you need those languages for and fitting them to your needs. So that means you don't need to be a computer scientist, a software engineer, or any expert in those fields. I am an economist, and I've been using these programming languages now for over a decade, and I'm having really good success with that. So you don't need to be any specialized computer scientist. And also you will find that you need the code not to be beautiful. Sometimes it's only need to be functional and useful to you and to your specific application. Always remember just to appreciate the comments that help to improve because obviously we strive to be better with each time. Okay, so these are like I think some of the essential abilities you need to have, and also some of the requisites. And this means that you don't have to be an expert in any field of programming or computer science to actually be making very good, cool data visualizations. Okay, let me just talk to you about my journey. First, 10 years ago, more or less, or I think it's even more, I began using Stata, which is a very econometrics oriented software. especially for us economists, is a very useful one. And then, of course, I first stumbled upon R, the R programming language. Boo. Yeah, boo. Boo indeed. But you know, R is like the toxic ex-girlfriend or boyfriend. We all need to leave that relationship in our lives. And sometimes we even make contact again because there are some useful libraries and programs in R that are useful and are really useful for your Python code. So you might need to go back in touch with them. So, like the toxic ex-girlfriend boyfriend, no? You know, you never know when you're gonna meet about it. But then it was around 2014 that I finally settled for Python as my core programming languages, and I've been using Python for 7 years now. And why is that? Well, because it turns out it has a great ecosystem for data analysis, which is one of the core activities I do, data analysis and data visualization through pandas, numpy, matplotlib, now also with plotly and other different libraries that are very, very good. And especially, and I've been finding this for the last 3 or 4 years now, that it turns out that Python has also a great ecosystem for web application building, for automation, for interactivity, and communication, which is basically the tools we need for data visualization, especially by using Plotly and Dash to make our dashboards, but also beautiful Soup to have this automation and web scraping possibilities, and also Heroku to deploy our web apps in the internet. And I'm going to show you some of these core examples that are some products I already delivered, I already created, which are, you will see, really actually really easy. It might seem difficult, but they are actually really easy to create. And first, let's go with this UKCS production and decline rates. My current research in my PhD studies has to do with analyzing production profiles of different oil and gas fields here in the UKCS. And because there are more than 400 gas fields, there was no web application out there that actually show you, like I am showing you here, these plots over here. And it was you need to go to download the data, make an Excel file. So for me it was very cumbersome. And I actually finished and make this web application, which you can see it's hosted now on Google. You can see here I deployed it with Heroku. This is Google. This is not my own. My own server or whatever. I am not cheating you guys. This is a web application that I delivered, and it was more or less easy to say so. That has all of the fields in these three sectors, which are the sectors of interest to me of the North Sea, and has the historic production. Yeah, let me just, it's updating over here. It's a little bit slow, my computer. But what it's giving me is showing me the field, then showing me the actual production, the expected or predicted decline rate. Here we change now to Alwyn North. And it's giving me also a table with the actual numbers that I can check. So if somebody is asking me, hey Arturo, what's the, let's go to the Balmoral field production profile. I just come this to my web application and I can show you straight away. What I am doing here, I am automating the boring. Why? Because I can be just creating these from scratch by going through the Excel file, making this plot, changing, and you will see how that will take me a lot of time. But I am more interested in saying, hey, Balmoral, now I can see from this plot by using this visualization that Balmoral is a very old field from the 1980s. It's basically like it's not producing even oil anymore. Okay, and I can also go to all this, for example, the Brent field. We can see here that it had a terrible time, maybe before the 90s, that was slowing a lot in production. Then comes new projects that increase the production again, and then we're having it back. And I even have a forecast of how production has been changing throughout the years and what's production gonna be for 2020. Okay, and this is all automated. I just had to do the code once, and I have all this information at my fingertips. That's very, very useful. Okay, so this is just like a motivating example, like enticing you to understand how you can use these web apps and why it is important that we understand how to use these web apps and create them and deploy them in the internet. Well, because now you can just send this link to any of your friends, to your boss, to the company you're going to work for, and they can be all accessing these applications. And the second application I did, this was more of a personal issue, was making about a one-page review to the oil market every week. I gathered the most important data of the oil and gas market and provided it here in this web application. All of this is a web app built totally in Python and Dash with Plotly, and you will see that it also includes some HTML, some tables, and this was all automated. By the end, I just had to change this the text of what was important in the week, but mostly you will see that I have these visualizations that actually allow me to understand something. Let's go with this plot of demand seasonality plot. This plot, the idea was to track the recovery of oil demand when the first hit of the pandemic came. And at that point, so we can just choose to highlight, in this case, 2020, and then I'm going to choose to highlight 2010. Let's just get a second before uh, the web page, the web app updates. But what I want you to know is that I have already this table, and you see it here now. It has highlighted here, and instead of focusing 80% of my time merging the data, cleaning it, making the table, changing the colors for the submission or for the highlight I want, I can just tell her, hey, tell the application, just highlight me 2020, and let's see what's the lowest year. Oh, it's 2010. It's 2010. So I just highlight this here, and we can see that in April 2020 we were actually almost 10 million barrels or 7 million barrels below other years. And I can begin just saying, hey, but well, now at September 2020, what's the other year that was around? So we can see here that oil demand by September was already at 2014 levels, still a 6-year decline from what or before pre-pandemic levels. So you can see that I am focusing now because of I have automated all of my plots over here. I can focus better on just understanding and making questions about oil market and making decisions based on this information instead of building the visualization. Okay, and I can also share it with other people by sending the web app the link. There's also the price futures for many years, and here I can also say, hey, what was the future curve at the beginning of the pandemic? And you can see that oil price was almost $10 what it was now as of October rate. And because I am using Plotly, I can have all this interactivity that allows me to be doing analysis on the fly, right? I don't need to go to an Excel file or to an Excel cell just to check what the number is. I can put here however many dates I want, and it will be updating automatically. Okay? So with these two core examples as well, I just want to show you how easy it is to get into the automation part, because I am now able to focus on this whenever I have to do this. And just let me show you, you will think, hey Arturo, but that looks very difficult and looks like it requires a lot of code. And this is the code, the source code used for the web application, okay? Which is just this directory over here, which has some assets, a proc file, which is required by Heroku, and the requirements. But basically, here I am using PyCharm. I will obviously invite you to, you can use Jupyter Notebooks, which is when people are learning, it's the one mostly used. But you can also use some, this IDE like PyCharm, which is really good to deploy with Heroku, and it's really easy. And you can see just here we have the first line of code, and all of the application takes more or less 365 lines of code, obviously with all the spaces. And most of it, you will see it is actually just making sure the drop downs are looking nice, the colors over here. So it is mostly styling, not even very important code or code. So you can see that, and this is a very small application compared to what it does, because this was I shared this in LinkedIn and Twitter, and it received a lot of likes. Many people were into this thing. I also got a job based on this Brent futures curve, because it is very, very useful, and it only takes 300 lines of code, which is nothing. Believe me, in terms of applications, 300 lines of code seems like a lot. It's nothing. It's really, really simple. Okay, guys. So now I want to show you now one case study and a true story of how using the automation idea and deploying web applications was useful for a company. And I gotta say, this first is a natural gas and oil products trading company, a multi-billion-dollar trading company. So this is not a small team. It's for you to check that it doesn't matter the size. Even in big sizes, there are a lot of ways to improve on the workflows. So we have this 3-man team that was the trading team of the company, and they had in total, let's say, 120 weekly man hours. If they work for 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day, then they have a total of 120 weekly man hours. So one of the most important activities for this group was to every day, early in the morning and at market close, they had to download and update the price settlement for 45 different natural gas and oil products. And so every day in the morning at the market open, and every day in the evening in the market close, they will have to download and update the price settlement for 45 products. Okay, For this, they used about 30 weekly man hours. These were very good traders, very good analysts, and that's why they can even do this quickly in 30 weekly man hours. But just look that 30% of their time was actually just munging data, was having to go to data, make these tables, and it's an activity that does not add too much value. Let me show you what's this approach look like the way they did it before. So what this means is that they will go to the web page of the CME group, which is the trading where you get the prices for different oil and gas products, and they will go to this area. They will go to the table, we click load all. They will try to make something like control copy, control paste. Then they will go to the Excel. It will obviously get messy. You might actually need to maybe change the dates, try to order them. This is not in date format, so you need to put that in short date format, and it's a problem because this December 21 is not the same format as this February 2022. And I can just continue with how clumsy this is. Okay, and that's not the worst part. The worst part is that once you were ready with one product, in this case crude oil, you will need to change product and maybe let's say go to coal, right? And they will need to go to coal and make the exact same thing. Get this table, get the chart, put this in. And once they have this chart, they now have to do the line plot and style the line plot, so on and so forth. You can see how this takes a lot of time, and it's just boring, right? It's just boring, and nobody cares actually about how you did it. They just want to see this. At the end of the day, the end product was this. The future curves. Because we want to see the price today and the price in the next months. So they were actually wanting to see these plots, and they are not focused, or the decision makers are not focused on the other thing. So that's the problem with this approach. I can see, and you will already be sleeping by how cumbersome and boring this is. Why not maybe focus on the exciting by automating the other thing? So now my approach, the future is now, oh man. And to this thing, we can just take away this very important, this very easy code here in a Python in a Jupyter notebook, which I have here for you. Carlos will be able to share this with you. And what I am doing is just making sure that it is Python, that the one that loads or carries the heavy burden of scraping all this web data and presenting this information in a table. Okay? So what I need to do is just load these very few libraries, get the address I want, in this case the product I want, which is in this case the WTI gas price, and I will have Selenium, which maybe you will have heard now with Carlos. I will have Selenium just open a web browser, a browser page, go to the crude oil prices, download this table and this information, and it's working now. I put this timer in purpose. Then just make some data munging because it gets the information, which again, you do this once and then you just have to update. And it will give me the price, the table, the same table you see over here, over in other product, it gives me the price of the Brent. And from here, I can save into Excel, I can plot, I can add to other curves. So now the possibilities are endless. But you can see how much it took me. Literally, once I built the application, it took me seconds. Okay? And this is the core idea of how I solved the problem for this company, for this multi-billion-dollar company. Because now you will see that it's easy to see that I just have to put this in a function, iterate over a loop, over a list of the different pages I want to have depending on the oil product price, and I will get this result. And so, what was at the end the result? It took me almost 35 hours to code. It was not very much difficult. I had to deal with some problems of how they actually use the information because of the sensitivity and because it's proprietary information. But now the team, instead of 30 hours, it only requires 3 weekly man hours to update the data. That's almost a 90% reduction. And you see, automation is power. They can now focus, thanks to harnessing the power of Python, to deploy a web application, to make visualizations automated. They can now focus on understanding the market or understanding their core business activity. So automation is power. And obviously, it also got me a very huge bonus because the boss at the time was very happy. He thought that, Arturo, I cannot believe that you are from 30 hours, now we're only taking 3 weekly man hours. And so they gave me even a bonus pay with something that really didn't take me too much to code. It was only 34 around hours. And the best thing is that now with that code, I can just recycle it and use it for another application that might be similar, you know? So you don't have to begin from scratch. You will be recycling this, this code. So my question to you is, are you ready to automate the boring and focus on the exciting? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. Hope you have enjoyed it. Carlos, thank you very much. And please, any questions you have, you want my contact details, ask them to Carlos, and I'll be very happy to share more with you about Python and data visualization. Thank you very much, guys.